so many takes, and I was like, come on, my job is to do this and not laugh. And I was laughing every take.
It's hard to defend women when you have those women around you, you know?
Los Espookys. I love that show.
Hello and welcome to Entertainment Weekly's Around the Table with Los Espookys. My name is Devin Kogan. I'm a senior writer at EW, and I am so excited to be here with the cast and creators of the show to talk a little bit about season 2. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Mira, la aclamada serie de HBO regresa. Los Espookys. Más fantástico, más misterioso, más spookier que antes.
I'd love to start by talking a little bit about kind of where you guys started with crafting season 2. Julio and Anna, when you sat down to start writing the new season, what were your primary goals? Where did you guys start?
We had to sort of pick up where season 1 left off, right? So there were certain things like, okay, Tati's married now, we have to deal with that. Andrés is out of his parents' house. Úrsula's being like hunted by this TV network. There were like threads like that had to be followed. But otherwise, it was just sort of like, I don't know, we would just come up with ideas that were like fun and funny to us and then figure out how to, turn it all into a cohesive season story. And I think we also got a lot more into the characters this season in a way that we didn't in season 1. And I think part of that just came from, having a season under our belt, seeing what Cassandra and Bernardo brought to their characters, and then that helping us, and informing the writing that we did for them going into season 2. And yeah, it just felt like a more mature version of the show because we had the experience of the first season already.
We were excited just deepening the characters and just exploring their psyche a little more, and also like fleshing out the world that they're in. And then I usually start with just like a well of ideas that we would love to include somehow, and then we find sort of like the roadmap to including all those things. But there weren't, I don't know, it's a very free-flowing, very organic process. So it's not like we set out to be like, second season has to be about this. It just sort of, we just sort of like play, and then, themes like organically arise.
Necesito un consejo, güey. ¿Sí? Es sobre un fantasma. Ajá. Mira, estaba en el supermercado. Ya. Y luego volteé a una esquina.
Renaldo, ¿esa es la horrible ropa interior que usas? ¿La compras aquí, donde venden tomates?
The first season was such a delight and was such a love letter to these like really weird, specific characters. What was the reaction like for you guys when the first season came out? Do any of you have any like funny stories about like unexpected reactions or like fan encounters from after the first season premiered?
I'm a fan of, it's someone who I was a fan of, or I am a fan of, Glenn Danzig, the singer from the Misfits.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so I couldn't believe it. All I wanted to do was tell him how great I thought he was, and then he was telling me about how much he loves Los Espookys. I love that show.
And I was really pleasantly surprised by like the variety of different types of people who liked the show. Like sometimes I would get stopped by someone that I would be like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't expect you to like the show. And that's so cool that you do, And
I want to get into, some of the really fun details from season 2. Bernardo, I'd love to start with you. There's an incredible episode this season where you dress up as a giant monster named BB's with an apostrophe. What do you remember most about filming those scenes?
I really love that Renaldo have the more radical missions to accomplish it. In every season, it seems like he have a really kind of complicated character to develop, right? Because no one else is going to do it, so Ronaldo's going to do it. And so, yeah, it was great. Since we were reading this in the table in HBO when we were reading the second season, when we get to that part, everybody in the room was cracking. And I was really excited about the moment, trying to imagine how it's going to be, how is it going to look like. And once we get there, and it was a really, really hot summer in Chile, and I realized I need to wear this big, giant poofy monster. It was like a challenge to be inside there for long times, for long periods. But it was great. I mean, the room was full of kids and they were having a great moment too. So yeah, I love this part of the show.
Absolutely. And Renaldo is really committed to playing BBs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Los Espookys, conjurando fantasías. Los Espookys, Los Espookys.
And Cassandra, I really love Ursula's arc this season, where she gets involved in politics and she has this super fun story. What excited you about sort of her journey this season?
I think that the fact that she can help herself. She's like, she can help trying to fix things that she believes are wrong. I remember a dream that I had with Anna when we were starting shooting the second season. And I was concerned about like the humor that Úrsula had to portray some humor, and in the dream I was with Anna and I was like, what is going on with Úrsula? And Anna would tell me that like she can't help herself, and we would crack ourselves out in my dream, because in my dream it was like she can't help herself. And then I woke up and I understood that was the thing, that she's grounded, and if Úrsula weren't there, like the whole other characters would be flying in the clouds and like up I don't know where, and Úrsula is the one that keeps them grounded. Yeah, I think that it's hard to defend women when you have those women around you, and you have Tati and you have Melanie, and it's like, why on earth Úrsula is trying to tell that women are worth it, But then you have the moon and you have water shadow, and she is like sort of, there's an energy that she perceives that is worth fighting for, and I think that's why she wants to take that voice.
And Julio, we have to talk about the moon. We get to learn a little bit about Andrés' friendship with the moon, played by Oscar nominee Yalitza Aparicio. Tell me a little bit about kind of how that storyline came together.
The idea of the moon being a character that Andrés engages with was something that we had thought about, and then we knew that we needed someone with like a really strong presence to be the moon. We didn't know if it was going to be a young person or old person or their gender or anything, but we thought of Yalitza, who's such a like magnetic presence. But what was nice about Yalitza is that she's very calm, and she's very like warm and she's very serene, which is not what you would think of someone who's like in space, right? So it's like that contrast I thought was really beautiful, especially against Andrés, who's so selfish and full of like pomp and circumstance.
Renaldo, you have to go to the cemetery, dig up the coffin, look at the corpse.
No sé, tío, eso no suena muy correcto.
You have to look at the corpse.
Fred, in the last season, Tico was mostly kind of off by himself in Los Angeles. And here he, moves back and gets to, hang out with the Los Espookys crew. Tell me a little bit about, what excited you most about, sort of getting to be, part of the Espookys shenanigans?
Well, it made the workday fun that I got to actually be with the cast more. I had more scenes also with Sonia, the character, his daughter, with her just yelling at him. And God, it was just the best kind of scene to get to do. And then something I hadn't thought of before was that there's scenes without Tico in his valet uniform, the red jacket. And all of a sudden there's this guy, and, with the same mustache. And that just immediately just opened up a whole new way for him to be. Although he's kind of the same. He's just like a people pleaser 100% of the time. So yeah, he stayed the same. But I was so glad I got to do it that way. Also, there's less explaining when we're all in the same country, and there's less like phone calls and where are you? Now it's just like one location, and everybody's happy.
Well, Anna, we have to talk about Tati, who goes on such a crazy journey this season. There's her marriage, there's her, her author career. She's such a wild character. For you, what is the most fun part about playing Tati?
Playing someone who's so stupid is so fun. But I think also what I think makes Tati sort of like work or feel like believable in a way, rather than just being like a total cartoon, is that like she, after her marriage collapses, like, okay, she's been lying to herself or trying to convince herself that this is like an authentic marriage. That collapses. And suddenly she's like, how do I redefine myself? I want something now. Oh, I'll plagiarize. You don't want to take the time to write and develop. Like, no, you want it now. So you plagiarize. And then that fails. And then you have like a reckoning of like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? Who am I? Like, and then you see her just kind of pick up the pieces and go, okay, I'll go back to like my little jobs. That sort of impulse of like, I want immediate gratification and satisfaction, and like I want the answers now. I feel like that's such a sort of universal in many ways, like feeling that we have. And to see Tati go through it and then be confronted with like, that's not how you're going to ultimately like find purpose, and you'll always be like searching for more if you keep going at it that way. Yeah, it felt fun to like explore that through such a sort of like absurd character.
I love the costumes on this show, like across the board, but like Tati has specifically like her hat and like her weird t-shirts and her shorts. Tell me a little bit about like developing like the look and feel of like her costuming.
So I had like a fascination with those hats well before Los Espookys, and when we started writing, I was like, my character's wearing this hat, and I want her to have just kind of like long shorts and kind of ill-fitting thrift store t-shirts and a little purse. And when we started working on the first season, our wardrobe designer, Muriel Parra, she, like the first meeting we had, she had like a totally different kind of look in mind that was like a lot cooler, the way that the other characters like dress cool. And I was like, no, she needs to look like pretty bad. Like it has to be these things. And then once she got that, then she was like, she would always say like, I hate shopping for Tati, going to like the most depressing like bins and trying to find like a t-shirt and like some sneakers. But yeah, once she like understood the aesthetic, she would pull shirts for me that I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like the places that she would find my little hats and stuff. It was great.
Andrés has this, like, he wears incredible hats, and like Renaldo has this, these amazing like boots and things. Were there any like details or costumes for any of you guys that like you really helped unlock the character for you guys, or like you really like connected with?
Yeah, my boots. I mean, my shoes make me feel like 5 inches taller. It's a great feeling. But yeah, that give me a really crazy sense of some sort of power, and I feel grounded, and I feel I would love to wear those shoes in everyday life, but I can't.
I love Tati's shoes. Like I would put them in a museum. Those sneakers are huge. Every time I don't care about anybody else's costume, but I saw Tati's whenever I see them, it's like, I don't know, I get the spooks.
Ustedes son tan darks, tan raros, me encantan. Los domingos con el fútbol, en el bar con los amigos.
Estoy muy orgullosa de ti, Tati. Gracias. Mírame ahora.
They're so good. And yeah, I mean, we talked about the costumes, but I also want to talk a little bit about the production design, and the set design is so incredible on this show. And I love all of the amazing sets and contraptions that Los Espookys like bring to life. Tell me a little bit about working with, some of the other like departments on the show to bring some of these like crazy ideas and settings to life.
Yeah, our production designer, Jorge Zambrano, he really gets the show, and he's very playful and he's very funny. So you can tell that he's having a lot of fun with the sets, and I think him and Muriel, the wardrobe designer, get excited when they see the challenges on the script, because they get to like play and show off and see where things go.
For all of you, did you each have like a favorite set or like a favorite like Los Espookys like project or something that like particularly brought you joy?
I think the BB's project was definitely a favorite.
For me, walking in the graveyard in the night was a crazy feeling, for sure.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That graveyard, it was gigantic. It was like this gigantic cemetery.
I loved the moon setting I loved working in. And I also loved the Mi Puta Suegra set. That was so just kind of like classic, so, that type of sitcom. I felt like they like understood it. Like, yeah, Jorge and his team like really executed that so perfectly. And that whole like gig that they do, like the way that Bernardo plays the virus, I like in every take, I couldn't not laugh. And even in the take that we use in the final cut, you can tell that I'm like holding back a laugh because every time it would make me laugh when Bernardo would, have the paint on his face. And like, you would think if it was a virus that maybe it was a kind of like techie or it was going to be scary. And it was like a really like, I'm a virus, and it really cracked me up.
Yeah, I want to ask a little bit about Mi Puta Suegra. How that is such like a weird, fun through line that kind of runs throughout the season. How did that kind of come together?
Well, there's like a lot of kind of like an older generation of Hispanic comedy that is where the joke is just, yeah, isn't our mother-in-law's the worst, And I think there's that also in American culture. But like I would get emails from one of my grandparents that's in Panama, and he'll send them to everybody. And the jokes are usually like misogynist or sexist, like, and you go, okay, yeah, you're in your late 90s and you live in Panama. Like, I get it. But I feel like that like, yeah, that Mi Puta Suegra represents kind of like that type of sitcom that's like the same thing all the time, the same jokes, the same villain, and having it be a show in their world that's like everybody loves. Like Oliver Twix is watching Mi Puta Suegra. It's not just for like the older generation.
Cassandra, what about you? Was there like a favorite set or like a favorite like Los Espookys gig from this season that you really loved?
Yeah, it was like the cemetery and Mi Puta Suegra set, both of them. I love to be in the cemetery at night. And I also like the actress that did Mi Puta Suegra. She was like amazing. The gravity of portraying a character for the rest of your life, it was so dense in her. And I think all of us as actors was like, we have to help her, we have to help her.
Me voy a postular a la presidencia. ¿Cuál es la estrategia? A todos los que quieran votar por mí les voy a ofrecer una pizza de esas chiquitas individuales.
And Anna, you mentioned, cracking up on set. I'm curious, of all of you guys, who breaks the most on set?
Tati, sometimes. Cassandra, they are in the race.
Yeah, I think that when Anna finds something funny, it's hard for her to shake.
Yeah. When we shot the scene where Tati comes out of her room and explains that she's now like writing audiobooks.
Yeah.
That took so many takes, and I was like, come on, my job is to do this and not laugh. And I was laughing every take.
One of the things I love about this show too is I love how it plays with language, and I love how the way the jokes are so perfectly like constructed in that they work depending on whether they're in English or Spanish. How do you guys kind of figure out when you want to use each language, and because there's some conversations that are bilingual. How do you guys kind of approach how you structure the show and with your use of language?
Some of it is just dictated by like what characters are in certain scenes. So like maybe if like scenes between any of the Spookies and like the American ambassador, well, the ambassador is going to speak in English and they're going to speak in Spanish. So some of it is just like that. But when we're writing, like, we know that whatever's on the page in the script, like that's what the subtitle is going to be in English, and vice versa with the Spanish. And so like we do make adjustments to either the English dialogue or subtitles or whatever, depending on, just finding the right translation when needed. But yeah, it's fun to write something where you're like, what's on the page is what's going to be on the screen too. It's not just the dialogue that has to be funny. It has to be funny to read.
You mentioned the U.S. ambassador, who is such a ridiculous and fun character that I'm so excited is back for season 2. What is it about like that character and like her whole world that you guys like particularly love? And what do you find most fun about the U.S. ambassador in particular?
Well, most of it is that it's Greta, and there's something just deeply funny about Greta, and it's not simply that. In the way she talks, there's something about her that is just like funny without her saying anything.
Yeah, she has really good eyes.
Yeah.
Very like judgmental eyes. And she's always like a little like, which is great for the American ambassador.
The production design of like her office and all the pink is just like ridiculous. How did you guys kind of want to approach and like all the weird little details about kind of her office and her world?
I think we just told Jorge like American Embassy, but the Barbie version.
She's like playing diplomacy.
¿Qué tal si te unes a los Espookys?
Me? Hey guys. Pretty spooky day today, huh?
One of the breakouts from season 1 is, the parasitic water demon, living inside of Andrés, who's back for season 2 and gets to, do some interesting things. What do you love most about the Shadow of the Water character in particular?
It's like our friend Spike playing the demon and the physicality and just sort of like Spike has a very strong presence and a very like strong camera presence, and just the contrast of that in the like sort of like Barbie world is really fun. We never like fully talked about it, but Spike had an office job at one point at a production company and was very, very like fish out of water in it, and just had to like run errands and make copies and stuff, and was constantly feeling like they were f***ing things up. And I think that some of that is in Water Shadow and the embassy, like literally learning how to speak corporate language. And
I know you guys, it's been 3 years since the first season. I know kind of in 2019, you guys were gearing up to shoot and getting started. And then, COVID shut you guys down for a little bit. Did that change during that shutdown? Did you guys change the story at all? Did anything have to shift or did that affect the story of season 2 in any way?
No, like we wrote the scripts in 2019 and then started filming at the beginning of 2020, got through like halfway. And when we shut down, we didn't change anything. Like we were lucky enough that we were able to still get the same actors that we had locked in and, a couple years prior. And like, we were able to just kind of go back and pick up where we left off and finish what was written. It also didn't feel like there were certain shows where I think there maybe was like some pressure to like incorporate COVID in some way, but our show feels so kind of removed from reality that it's like, we don't got to talk about COVID in this show.
Traffic was crazy.
Yes, Demon's learning.
Cuidado, porque en este pueblo nada es lo que parece.
Thought it was a waterbed. Good night, cousin.
So for, all of you guys thinking back to the filming experience, what was your most memorable day on set or maybe the most memorable scene that you guys shot for season 2?
The day we came back to Chile, the last thing we did before we pack everything like crazies and jump in the first plane back home. When we finally came back to Chile, I came to do this practice in the bus I drive in one of the episodes. And it was crazy for me to go back to the same place with the same bus, with the production people around for that practice. And it was in my brain was like a shortcut about like what happened all these 2 years. It was like a crazy gap between like if the night before I was getting ready for driving the bus the next day.
Yeah, it was funny to have some scenes where like, right before we were shut down, we shot like this half of the conversation and we're coming back and we're shooting this half now. Like just the scenes really cut kind of like in the middle.
Seeing Anna direct, I remember like just a moment of Anna saying like, why is this taking so long? And
let's go. Yeah.
And put it like this, and it was like
in a totally different aspect. Yeah. She's so chill.
Tati to why is this taking so long? And it was so great to see her do that.
It does feel kind of funny to have been like, on days where I was like acting, but also directing, being in the Tati outfit, and then having to be like, okay, can I look at the monitor? Can we, having to like switch gears, but I like look so silly. I really like shooting the Tati's brain, the like white void, and also doing Renaldo's brain in there. Like I really love that, just white space and all the little beds and doing all the little Tatis.
I like the staircase, when we shot this sort of staircase showroom, just as an idea, not just like the art direction, but even in my brain, like oh yeah, staircases are a separate entity. Even though we use them all the time, it is its own invention. And to see them on their own, that was like existential.
In this season specifically, when people saw Martine and were introduced to Martine and like saw her in the costume, like performing with like no lines, and everyone's like, who is this creature? And it just felt like, I don't know, it was just really fun.
Gracias por invitarme a cenar.
Es muy importante para mí que pase tiempo de calidad con mi marido. Estoy preparando su comida favorita, gazpacho.
All right, great. Well, I think that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to chat with me. This has been such a blast. And this has been EW's Around the Table with Los Espookys.